has been 3 years since the first season of Arcane. It feels like a long time because it's been a long time. You know, during the pandemic, a lot of great animation came out and really was successful because everybody was at home and they were like, oh, thank you for feeding me, Netflix and other streaming services. Nom, 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 nom. But then also all these shows were like, yes, let's greenlight another season. But there just wasn't enough talent and space and money and time to really get them going fast enough. And I guess, you know, often, I guess that's one of the reasons that shows get renewals right when they start so that they can, you know, quickly get going so that this next season can come a little bit faster. But, you know, many a show took a little bit too long coming back. And as a result, it's been very hard to jump back in. And some of those shows just outright fell on their faces. And I wonder if the same fate perhaps awaits Arcane, even though, well, all these shows are good, but Arcane, that was just true. It's truly special. And it's not quite as good season 2, but it still is very, very compelling. Now, there's so much new content these days, you know, blah, blah, blah. It often feels just like you know, just a water cannon of new content. And it's so hard to keep up. Although then there are also like these lulls, like these deserts when you're like, there's nothing to watch. And I wish that Netflix would try to program those deserts being like, you know what's coming up soon? There's like a season 2 of a show that's up and out for a while. This would be a great time to go back and revisit the older episodes, but they don't do that. So, you know, and they don't advertise when the show is starting. So what happens is, like, I think what's happening with Arcane, I mean, I got these screeners very late because I didn't realize till the last minute the show was even coming back out. And it's my job to know that. So imagine, you know, for, you know, viewers, what's going on. So it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, the new episodes are out right now. No, I don't want to take a long break and go back and work my way through the original 9 episodes because I want to watch the new stuff right now. But I'm sorry to say that you got to at least go back and read the episode recaps on Wikipedia if you want to have even a chance at following the second and final season. Season 2 hits the ground running, which would have been great if the seasons had been kind of close together. And the story is very complex with tons of callbacks to season 1. Even though it was 3 years ago, it made a very strong impression on me. And so I'd be watching the season 2 screeners and I'd be like, I'm pretty sure that's a callback to something important, and I vaguely remember what they're talking about. And there's not a single recap in sight, by the way. I mean, again, Netflix doesn't advertise their shows, and they can't even be bothered to edit together a previously on. I mean, I would have just accepted one previously on at the beginning that rolled before the first episode, but it would have been nice before each episode to have a, don't forget these are important, you know? I mean, even Agatha All Along was doing that on Disney+. It makes a big difference. So I got 6 of the 9 episodes in advance. They're only giving the 6 out, so the last 3 must be pretty amazing if they don't want them to leak. Although apparently a lot of these have already leaked, so that's going to hurt viewership as well. Have some of you already seen Arcane Season 2? Share your thoughts down below. Don't have any spoilers, though. But the show is going to be released in 3 parts. 3 weeks in a row, you're basically going to get an Arcane movie. 3, 3, and 3. And the first 3 are up right now, by the way, so you can go watch them right now. But you better read those recaps. And so I tried to just jump right in. And after I was like, yeah, I can do it. But I remember well enough the first season. But after the first 3 episodes, I was like, man, I'm so lost. The show is starting to lose me. And I was getting frustrated. So I did take a break and I read the Wikipedia recaps. And I'm happy to tell you in this regard that they were enough. I felt they were good enough that I could follow I was like, okay, I'm plugged back in. Let's go. I understand what's happening again. So please go watch Arcane Season 2, but take a little stop over Wikipedia, reread those synopses, and then jump into the new season. Season 1 was legendary and apparently extremely expensive. This little article came out. Whew! Arcane is in fact such an expensive animated series that it has caused Riot Games to totally rethink their Hollywood ambitions. And in fact, the man who spearheaded the endeavor, Nicola Laurent, left the company and will not comment on it anymore. But out of the chaos has risen true beauty, and I mean that. The first season of Arcane won a ton of Annie Awards and dominated at the Emmys as well, the primetime Emmys, deservedly so. Blue Eye Samurai, that was incredible, but Arcane is still superior. And I love Blue Eye Samurai. They're also taking forever with their second season. It's ridiculous. I worry about the fate of that show as well. Like they're only just starting to animate season 2 for them. And you're like, oh my God. The animation industry, though, is evolving at breakneck speed, and it is thrilling to witness. But still, I still feel that Arcane, in terms of ambition and when it comes to the medium, leads the pack. The drama and money were worth it, to a degree, because it seems this beautiful madness, much like Hex Tech itself. You're like, I vaguely remember what Hex Tech is. Go read the Wikipedia recaps. But it cannot sustain itself. It's too dangerous, too beautiful to live. And this, again, is the final season of Arcane, and with no new content in sight. Because, again, Riot is trying to get some control over all the money and drama. And I don't know if they ever will. I mean, it's a mess. It's really a mess. If you want to read that Variety article, I'll put a link to it down below. But Arcane Season 2 also is not the same as Arcane Season 1, and I'm curious to see how it's received by fans. On the one hand, it feels more like the adaptation of a fighting game that it is. There are more matchups, and Season 2 really gets its Zack Snyder on. There's lots of slow-motion tableaus that are very nice to look at. Season 2 also has these music video sections, like there are these montages toward the start of each episode. At first, I got nervous. I was like, did you not have the time and money to fully animate this appropriately? But it seems to be a stylistic choice, or maybe they just ran out of money and time. But anyway, I would say 80% of the show is fully animated. So I came to kind of like those sequences. They reminded me, in fact, of the ending montages that I know are in some video games. And so they seemed to work in that regard. Then, this is where things are going to get maybe interesting. On the other hand, welcome to the steampunk version of Agatha all along, because it's almost exclusively female characters in Season 2, many of them LGBT. At least in the first 6 episodes. We'll all see together what happens in the final 3. All the male characters have been largely sidelined or killed off. Yes, while Vi and Jinx really feel the loss of their surrogate fathers, Vander and Silco, the show really feels it too. That, I think, it seems a little bit like a very different show. So we'll see. Now, players of the game know that Viktor has an important future ahead of him, but it plays out very differently here, at least, again, in the first 6 episodes. I don't know what's going to happen in the final 3. I mean, I found it compelling and interesting, but it is less, let's say, action-oriented than I think some gaming fans would maybe be expecting and prefer. Arcane's, and again, you're like, where are the male fighters? Like, is that going to affect the show? Some of you swear it won't. We'll see how you feel when you actually see it. Arcane Season 2, I have to say, it's as progressive a show as Hollywood could make. And I believe there's even, by the way, the equivalent of a trans character, which I thought was really well done. I was like, that's really interesting. I think you're doing a great job there. But we'll see how fans receive it, especially as it arrives on what is now the start of Trump 2.0. Like, I don't see how you could have a problem with She-Hulk and the Acolyte and Agatha all along, but yet be okay with this. I mean, is the style really that big of a difference? I mean, to me, they all seem like they're cut from the same cloth. And I liked a lot of that content, and I like this show. Arcane, though, has a lot of mythology. Piltover versus Zon. Do you remember what that is? The elites on the surface versus the disenfranchised in the depths of the city. The drug enhancer, Shimmer. You remember that? I was like, why were Jinx's eyes glowing again and she can seem to move a little bit faster? Oh, yeah. Hex Tech, right? Noxus, led by the Medarda family. However, in Season 2, most of all those things are put on hold, frustratingly. I mean, they're all still there at the corners of the story. You need to know what they are to follow what's happening. But they're instead focusing on grander ideas and messaging, as well as personal drama. And I miss the more intricate elements of Season 1, the more of the world building. Season 2, again, feels more message-driven, and with less story, or at least less story detail than Season 1 had. It doesn't seem to be moving the story forward quite as much, or at least ways that are as tangible. Also, while the animation is still stunning, at points, it seemed like the human character animation was, I'm not sure if this is even a thing, but it seemed digitally rotoscoped. Like they traced the movements of a human performer. And I know the animation to some degree has always been built on that. Disney would use models and they would film. And animators have long filmed themselves, but I think usually for inspiration. They still animate the action. But this to me seemed like it was just like lifted, and it would break the spell. Usually a lot of times when you're watching Arcane, you're like, this is so realistic. I'm so impressed. But in these moments I'm talking about, you would be like, oh, you're cheating. That's why it seems so realistic. And I wonder if any of you will pick up on that as well. That's not to say this show is not still extremely entertaining, especially if you're into this kind of stuff. Visually, the show continues to be absolutely jaw-droppingly stunning. From production design to costume design to weapon design to camera angles to lighting and more. And while the animation is at times very realistic, like I just said, it still has very strong artistic flourishes. So it seems definitively animation. It seems like art very much at its core. I loved it. I really, really love that. I think it's just incredible. It's like what Paperman had promised, like on steroids. It's incredible. Plus, really phenomenal action sequences. I love them. I was like, this is very thrilling. Great score. I was watching it late at night. I had to turn my volume down. I didn't want to, bother my neighbors. But I was like, yeah, this is great. Boom, 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 boom. I love it. The animation is so stunning that I still think that for me personally, it is the best I've ever seen in the medium. And I mean that. With all due respect to the other things that people are doing, which I still also really love, this to me is still the best animation I've ever seen. Really, anywhere. The show also continues to be extremely comic book coded, which makes me enjoy it even more, and I'm sure that helps for some of you also. Jinx is definitely Joker Harley Quinn, a Joker Harley Quinn hybrid. Viktor, I'm seeing shades of Magneto, and new series regular Ambessa Medarda is Wakanda meets Waller. I came to really love all the characters in the first season of this show, and I really liked getting to see them again. Although, on that note, side note, as I said, you really kind of have to check out the recaps to follow what's going on. But that's only for people who did watch the original episodes. I only mean that as a refresher. If you never watch those episodes, I do not believe you will truly be able to appreciate season 2 or enjoy it. Because you have to go on that original journey to care about what's happening in season 2. Because so much of what happens in season 2 is built on the shoulders of season 1. And at least so far, they haven't added enough of their own thing for season 2 to be able to stand on its own. So the recaps are only for people who've already watched the original episodes, just so you can refresh and jump right in because you're excited. But if you've never watched Arcane, sorry, you got to go back to season 1, episode 1 to really have this work the way it's supposed to. You can click on whatever you want, but you're probably going to be like, this is a pretty show, but it's very hollow. And I'll be like, that's because you didn't watch the heart of it, which is season 1. And while the strokes are broader for sure in season 2, still episode 6, the end of week 2's movie, a week from today, still made me cry. It made me break down and cry. I was so moved. I was like, man, you didn't have to make it that sad. And they were like, yes, we did. And I was like, man, that was amazing. I'd say in the first 6 episodes, my favorite characters are Jinx and Viktor. I love me an anti-hero. And also Ambessa and Mel Medarda, who are both regally animated. Very nice. Also, while his role is much smaller, Kevin Alejandro makes a strong impression as the only alpha male character really left on the show, bringing that strong, specific energy. So yeah, Arcane Season 2 isn't quite as good as Season 1, but it still works, and at moments it still takes your breath away. If you enjoyed Season 1, as I know many did, very popular show, you'll definitely want to see what happens next. And if you're a fan of animation, you're going to want to see what Fortiche Animation Studio Fortiche is doing here. Riot Games might not be, they might be backing away from Hollywood, at least for a little while. I think probably for a long while. But if I were a movie studio, I would definitely be talking to Fortiche about making an animated feature film pour moi. This is what we were hoping for with the upcoming animated Lord of the Rings animated movie. We thought it would be like this! And this also, I think, builds very much on the Spider-Verse animation, which has proven to be quite popular. It took some getting used to, but it's turned out to be very popular. Matching Fortiche up with another great IP would be exciting for fans in the animation art form overall. Particularly, I think, to try it in the theatrical space. It's done very well on streaming. It's almost in some ways like the digital Castlevania. Oh, thank you also to all of you who turned me on to Castlevania. But I would love, and I think that the new Lord of the Rings movie is trying to be like Castlevania, but the animation doesn't look as good. But I would love to see this style of animation in the theatrical space to see what it could do, particularly with Western audiences. Fortiche is small though and isn't able to put out a lot of content. And Riot did buy a large piece of it. So a studio might have to either buy another large piece of it or maybe buy the whole thing outright. But I gotta tell you, I think it would be worth the investment. Maybe not for Disney or Universal because they already have a lot of animation, but Warner Brothers, Sony, Paramount, particularly Warner Brothers though. If I were Zaz, I know Zazzy's trying to sell, which is a shame, or whoever buys Warner Brothers, but they have so much fantastic IP. Fortiche could really do a lot with it. I mean, imagine a Harry Potter animated movie in this style, or Mortal Kombat, or something in DC. I mean, it's just so exciting. And Riot Games isn't going to use them, so I mean, really. At the very least, though, Arcane is an incredible calling card for Fortiche. And I think that's unfortunately a really good way to describe season 2. Again, it's not its own thing. It's a nice thing for those who enjoyed season 1 to get to go back. And it's a fantastic calling card for what the Fortiche Animation Studio is capable of. I think a big part of the problem is the writing. Although it was reported in that Variety article that season 2 began to go into the animation process before they'd even really finished or even truly started the scripts for season 2, and unfortunately, you can really see that in the finished product. We give James Gunn. We'll see how it all turns out, but I do agree with him, and he seems to be holding true to that projects should not move out of development into production until their scripts are done. I mean, I guess it was just taking so long at that point. Riot Games and Fortiche decided to pull the trigger, but the result is something that's not as good. So that's my review of Arcane Season 2. I've only seen the first 6 episodes. The first 3 are up right now. The next 3 will drop a week from today, and then a week from then you'll have the finale, which we'll all witness together because Netflix is keeping those under their hat. All right, so share your thoughts down below, subscribe, and if you've just gone and watched them, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but again, no spoilers. So share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.